Hey guys, welcome back to some Bible reading. Missed you last week. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I did. Okay, so where are we at this time around? I think we were in the book of Samuel, if I remember right. First Samuel, chapter 16. So we're going to move on now to First Samuel, chapter 17. And this chapter and this story is one of the most famous stories in the whole Old Testament. The whole Old Testament. Okay, so 1 Samuel 17. Remember, we were introduced to David last time we did our Bible reading. A future king for the Israelites. Remember, when we were introduced to him, he was just a boy. Samuel would find him as a boy. So here we are now. 1 Samuel 17. This is the story of David and Goliath. So King Saul's army was in trouble. Remember, King Saul, he was the king of the Israelites at this time. His army was in trouble. Their enemies, the Philistines, were camped on a hill just across the valley. The two armies were getting ready for war. One morning, a huge man came out of the Philistine camp, and his name was Goliath. Goliath was, for the Philistines, he was like their champion fighter, right? Whenever there was a one-on-one battle between one of their enemies, they would send Goliath because he was the biggest, strongest, baddest, most feared fighter for the Philistines. So he was important for this Philistine army, the enemy of the Israelites. And he was 9 feet tall. It's like a giant. He's a giant. He wore a helmet and a coat of armor made of heavy bronze. He carried a sword, a spear, and a dagger. So he was well equipped. Goliath stood and shouted to King Saul's men, "Choose your best soldier to come out and fight me. If he wins, our people will be your slaves. But if I win, your people will be our slaves." No one in Saul's army wanted to fight the giant that day. They were all afraid. So Goliath came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. 2 times a day, he dared someone to fight him. Day after day, Saul's men, the Israelites, would just run away in fear. At this time, David was out tending to sheep for his father, Jesse. 3 of David's brothers were in Saul's army, were in the army of the Israelites, and Jesse asked David to take some bread to them. While David was at the camp of the army, the giant Goliath came forward as he did once again. "Choose someone to fight me," Goliath called out again. And again, the soldiers of King Saul just ran away. Again and again, they ran away. David said to Saul, "We can't let this Philistine make cowards of us. I will go and fight him." "But you're only a boy," King Saul said. "How can you fight such a giant?" David answered, "I have fought lions and bears when they came to take my sheep. The Lord saved me from the claws of the lions and bears, and he will keep me safe from the hands of this Philistine Goliath." "All right, go ahead," said Saul. "I hope the Lord will help you." Saul dressed David in his own helmet and coat of armor, and David could hardly even move because he was not used to them. Remember, he's just a boy. He's not a soldier. So he took them off. Then David picked up 5 stones from the stream nearby and put them into his shepherd's bag with his sling. Like a sling he uses like this to sling the stones. With his walking stick in his hand, he stood in front of Goliath. This is a brave man. Let's see what happens. The giant jeered at David. "Ha! You think I'm a dog that you come after me with a stick?" he said. "You come at me with a sword, a spear, and a dagger. But I've come out to fight you "In the name of the Lord all-powerful," said David. David reached into his bag and took out his sling and a stone. He took aim, and he shot the stone right at Goliath, and the stone went whew, right into Goliath's forehead, and he fell face down on the ground, dead. When the Philistine army saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran in fear, just as the Israelites once ran in fear. David had just saved the Israelite people with a sling and a stone. Whoa. That's an epic story. Seriously. It makes me think, though. Think about how brave David was, right? David was this young man who, to us, to men, to people, probably doesn't seem like he could do much, right? He's not a man. He's not fully grown. He hasn't learned. He's not as wise as maybe that guy or that guy. He's not as strong and powerful. But what David did have was a complete and total faith in God and a desire to defend God's honor. So he signed up for this impossible battle. How was he supposed to win this battle? Well, he said, "You have a sword and a spear and a dagger, Goliath, but I have God. So what's stronger than a sword and a spear and a dagger?" David said, "Easy, God. And God, if it's in his will see me through this battle." So that is pretty awesome. And when we're faced with things that seem impossible or that want to test us or challenge our faith or challenge our God, I have a question. Do you approach it with the same courage and faith that David had when he was up against this giant warrior, Goliath? Do you approach things that are giant and difficult and challenging with the same commitment to God that David had? That's what you should be asking yourself. And that's the challenge for you guys as you grow up and grow older and become older boys and girls and young men and young women and adult men and adult women all the way to the end of your life. Do you approach things with the same courage and the same fierceness and the same boldness and faith that David had? The same boldness, the same faith in our God that David had. Think about that. I'll see you guys next week. Man, it's a great story. Bye, guys.